Bonjour, je suis not manly. Ici le voyage d'espace je ne sais quoi, part 8 3/4? I don't know. We got Kerbal Space Program 1.9.1 working right now. I am using a test version of Copernicus, gladly supplied by Sigma 88. We're just going to check out a couple of things here. First off, I missed this particular science bonus for the Eve random monolith, so we're going to go out there first. So yeah, I've got a version that's a test version for Kerbal Space Program 1.9.1. The terrain looks pretty good, not quite the same as it did back in 1.8, but I'm not too worried about that. Kind of reminds me of a cross between the two. The little hack job for time warp still seems to work for these rovers. And let's zoom out and take a proper look. Okay, this is the surface of Eve, and we're on ultra high detail, and look at that, no more missing terrain tiles! Way to go, Copernicus team, you seem to have licked this particular problem. Good job. Here I am testing my craft again to make sure that it works in KSP 1.9.1. This is the ascent from Eve, which I actually had to repeat a few times, as you saw in the intro. I seem to have fallen out of practice for this particular launch because I found that I came up short on Delta V many times, but this particular time I ended up finally making orbit with just under 100 meters per second to spare. But at least at a 70 by 70 orbit, the mothership could have come down to pick these guys up and would have been getting their guys all the way out to Gilly from there. So not too bad, explodium breathing engine still works. Explodium breathing engines also received an update to work in gas giant atmospheres, although interestingly, combining with ambient hydrogen is actually less efficient than combining with ambient hydrocarbons in the air. I find that quite fascinating. So sure, you can build craft that can fly in the atmosphere of Joule now, but they're not going to be as efficient. But hey, if you want to try doing that ascent without trying to use propellers or whatever, go ahead and give it a shot now. We may have future plans for those particular engines as this particular series progresses. Anyway, we had some extra heating effects on this ascent here. As you can see, I was considerably out of practice getting this craft back up to low Eve orbit, but we were successful. Yeah, we are much lower in the Delta V department, but hey, that's okay as long as they can get to orbit and do some basic maneuvers. That is good enough for these guys. There we go. Safely back in low Eve orbit, so the same craft will still work. Also, we went back to Moho, and the terrain has been fixed here as well. No more random terrain tiles, no more circuit boards on the surface. The terrain looks kind of grainy, but hey, maybe that's what's supposed to happen. It looks really good there. I have not changed the version of Je ne sais quoi. We were still running 0.9. All we changed here was the version of Kerbal Space Program and the version of Copernicus. Also, according to Galileo team, this version of Je ne sais quoi has more biomes for Moho. Like that hole in the ground there is its own biome now. We're not going to bother doing any more exploring out here. Exploding. I hope we don't do any more exploding out here. Anyway, Walt and Doug would have made it back up to rendezvous with the main mission craft if they actually launched in the correct direction. No matter. Since we've got the system at least playable again, it is time to prepare for our mission out to the asteroid belt. And to start, we're setting up our relay network above the surface of Kerbin. We're going to place some geostationary satellites above the surface. So getting these stationary satellites out, you need to get out to an altitude of just under 9,000 kilometers and have an orbit period of just under 12 hours, just under 1 Kerbin day. Delta V to get out here, you need 1.2 kilometers per second for the initial climb. To set your orbit period to 2/3 or 8 hours, you need an additional 500 meters per second, and then each satellite needs about 270 meters per second. And that's what we've got here. We've got a multi-satellite launcher here that is up to stationary altitude. It's a little bit higher than stationary altitude because what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until these satellites fall just right to stationary altitude before closing my orbit. What will happen is the satellite would libate a little bit, It might be a problem for an Earthbound communication satellite, but hey, this is Kerbin. You don't need to have satellites in exact stationary orbits. There we go. I'm waiting for my altitude to get exactly where it needs to be. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, go! Go, 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 go! There we go. So then I wait till my orbit period gets to exactly where it needs to be, just like it shows there in Kerbal Engineer. Just a little more. Oh, did I overdo it? No, I'm actually slightly under. So I'm going to dial my thrust all the way back down to 1. Yet in this version of KSP you can actually type in some hard numbers for your thrust and gimbal limiters. And there we go. Oh, come on. Oh, come on, get that thing pointed the right direction. There we go. So we'll just go up a little bit until we get to 11 hours, 58 minutes, and 2 seconds. One. You know what? 2.04. We'll take that. Close enough for Kerbal work. 2 satellites later, we finally launched the last one, and we do the exact same thing. I use my surface retrograde trick just to get the initial burn going. And 11, there we go. Oh, oh, there we go. 2.042 seconds. We'll take that. And we will deorbit this. We put a small Octo 2 probe core aboard this booster so we could deorbit it safely. We are not leaving any space junk up above low Kerbin orbit if we can help it. Come on down. The Reentry particle effect is not turned on, it looks like. Did I forget to install it? Well, the basic Reentry effect is working, but we're missing the particle effects. We'll get those back in a bit. In the meantime, we'll just make sure that this debris falls falls safely back to the surface of Kerbin, where it will not cause any collisions up in space. Here is part 2 of my master plan for communications. This monster rocket is the largest one I've built aside from that UR900, but now that we've got the Rhino liquid fuel engine, we don't need to rely on that complex assembly of parts. We can use a more traditional 3.75 meter assembly here, including kickback solid rocket boosters, that mammoth liquid fuel engine consisting of 4 vector engines, and lots of huge fuel tanks. Problem is, when we get this thing up to low Kerbin orbit, it's not going to have the Delta V or the fuel to get out to where I want it to go. But at least let's just get this thing up into low Kerbin orbit. We'll be able to send up a refueling mission once this thing is safely in orbit. Look at that. Yeah, I undercooked this gravity turn. But hey, we got to space. We have the Delta V to close orbit, and as long as we don't detach that stage, we'll be able to refuel it. There we go. Those are 3 of the largest satellites we've got. The JX2 satellites. Those are the largest relay satellites available in the JX2 part pack. This is recommended for use with JNSQ for communications out to the outer planets. I'm not going to put these above low Kerbin orbit though. You may notice those huge fuel tanks I've got attached to those, along with those Twitch engines. Instead, I'm going to be sending this thing up to high solar orbit. And we're sending out Doug Kerbin here with a refueling tanker to get that thing topped up. Scatterer does work when you have DirectX 12 mode forced. So again, in KSP 1.9 we can get those nice effects that we've grown accustomed to. And the clouds for environmental visual enhancements still work as well. EVA transfer pipes also works, at least as long as Doug can control himself. Come on, Doug! It's like, hey, I'm in space again! There we go. But yay, the EVA transfer pipes work as they did before. I had to go back and unlock those tanks just to make sure. I also unlocked them to make sure we didn't use them getting up here. And there we go. 3.1 kilometers per second, which should be more than enough for this relay craft to complete its mission. And then we'll deorbit the refueler and bring Doug back home safe. Interesting looking structure. You'll get to see it in its full glory in just a moment. But also, we detach Doug here from that refueler so he can come back home safe. Look at that. Come on. Come on. Let's see it. There we go. Now we got the re-entry particle effect working properly. Not bad. Not bad at all. I set the parachutes to open at 0.4 atmospheres, which is about 5 kilometers up. Just because, hey, let's do this properly. I still don't have an alternate version of tweak chutes in there, but that's okay. I'll respect the parachute limits in future missions. That terrain looks a little pixely, but hey, I could think of worse problems right now for a Beta Copernicus. I'll take that. So, the deep space relays, we're sending them out between the orbits of Duna and the asteroid belt at 76 gigameters with an orbit period of just under 3 years. The initial ejection to get out here from low Kerbal orbit is 2.1 kilometers per second. The 2/3 orbit period is just another 350 meters per second, but each satellite then needs about 2 kilometers per second to complete their orbits. That's why they have those large tanks and twitch engines. So here we go, we're ejecting the main relay craft. 76 gigameters. And there we go. Now look at these antennas. This is the JX2 large antenna, and oh boy, is it ever large. Look at that. And that animation was just beautiful. We have smaller antennas on the other 2 relays so we can get some close range control when we launch these things from the main mission craft. This thing will be up at Apoapsis well before we launch out for the asteroid belt with our crewed mission. Until we get out there, I'm not Man Lee. Fly safe.